What's up? Welcome back for another episode of the Fit 40 podcast. We got a couple of awesome topics on deck today. We're going to be talking about number one, how to overcome motivation slumps during the winter. Number two, how to stay active indoors. And number three, how to incorporate family into workout plans. So we're going to be talking about everything activity-wise today. All right. In the last episode, I talked all about how it's a really good place to start from is just activity, get moving. So let's talk about the first thing that kind of gets us in that place is motivation. We're not really going to move if we're not motivated to, right? So how do we do that? Well, number one, especially around this time of year, it always helps to make sure that your boxes are checked when it comes to physiologically. So go to the doctor, make sure everything's good to go on the hormonal side of things, make sure that you're good to go on everything else. Ask if something like D3 supplementation might be appropriate based on where you live in the world, because some of us just don't get enough sunlight during this time of the year to produce that naturally. So asking good questions like that and making sure that you are set up for success is a really good place to begin. And then number two is when it comes to motivation, the thing is to just move. I know it's so simple to say, it's so easier said than done, but doing something will usually help us get out of motivation because action defeats motivation. Action trumps motivation. So even if you're not feeling like doing anything, getting out to do a 5-minute walk is better than nothing, and it's going to lead us in a more productive place. Now, if you are the type of person that's like, oh, 5-minute walk, why bother? It's not even good enough. And you want to be doing these hour-long workouts. You want to be doing these killing yourself workouts, but you just don't have the motivation to, but you won't let yourself just have a 5-minute walk. That's a conversation you got to have with yourself where it's like, okay, what are we actually doing this for? Are we making up for lost time and going down this rabbit hole of punishing ourselves and trying to only do what's optimal? Or are we actually trying to get better? Are we actually trying to do what's best for our bodies? Because that takes a lot of different shapes and forms throughout the years. And right now with the season that you're in, if you are low motivation right now, what your body is calling for is something rather than everything or most optimal. So if that is just moving, just getting a 5-minute walk in, do that. That is more beneficial than nothing. And it doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it just because it's not the most perfect thing ever. So get into that rhythm. And then once you have that muscle working where it's like I show up for myself, I do this thing every day. Like if you do a 5-minute walk 7 days a week and then all of a sudden you carve out some time, like we talked about in the last episode, you carve out some time and say, I'm going to do my workout on this day because I'm already walking. I already have my tennis shoes on. I already have my workout outfit on. Why don't I just lift some weights? That's how you get the ball rolling. You don't just sit around and wait and say, I want the motivation fairy to just smack me across the face and say, let's fucking go. Okay. That doesn't happen. We get these waves here and there, but it never actually leads to anything consistent. What you got to do is build that muscle of I'm doing it anyway. No negotiating in your head. Or if there is negotiation, go through that negotiation process while you're getting ready. Okay, tell yourself, yeah, I'm really not feeling it today as you're putting your socks on. Yeah, our body's just really stiff. I don't know about this as you're putting your pants on. We don't really have a workout set, or I don't know if I could pull this off at the gym as you're putting your t-shirt on. And then you get to the gym and you're like, maybe I'll just do a warm up. Okay, so let's just hop on the treadmill for 5 minutes. And then you're like, well, I'm already here. I might as well do this machine that I know I can do. Okay, I got done with that machine. All right, well, I can do more. I might as well. And then you're like 5, 6, 7 exercises in. You've done 30, 40 minutes of a workout. You feel amazing. And you're like, damn, this all started with me negotiating, not even coming here. So just get yourself moving and do the things anyway while having these conversations in your head and get used to that feeling of, man, I'm going to feel like shit some days, but I still need to make it a priority. And this is actually really well encapsulated by one of my clients that I just did her check-in this week. And she told me that it was a gigantic win, like the non-scale victory that we try and acknowledge every single week. Hers this week was I walked even when it was crappy out, because in the past, this client, Valerie, would say, you know what, if situation isn't ideal, if my motivation's low, I'm just not going to do it. And then go through these slumps of weeks and months falling off track. But now, after working together and she's developed these good habits and she's had these conversations and she's able to push through, now it's a giant victory because she's like, hey, come rain, shine, or whatever, I'm out there walking. I still do the thing. And she finds ways to get it done. So just know, if this is you, you're not alone, and it's very, very, very possible. And if, for example, your thing holding you back is the weather, there's no such thing as bad weather, just wrong clothing. So if you need to get some more heavy duty clothing, some warmer stuff, some water repellent stuff, go out and get it. Make sure you have what you need and then go after it. Do what you got to do and keep yourself moving. Now, let's say it is really crappy out and you have to stay indoors. Time for topic number 2, which is how do we stay active indoors? Number 1 is hitting the gym. If you have a gym that you can go to that has a cheap ass membership that's like maybe 10, 15 bucks a month, and you actually utilize it, unlike the 99% that don't, that are paying that gym's bills, and you have the whole place to yourself, that's paradise when you have the whole gym just to you. And right now, January, it's probably going to be a little bit packed, but it's not the end of the world. You can still get stuff done. You could still do one machine at a time and get a good workout in. And that keeps you indoors. You don't have to worry about weather being a factor, even though for some odd reason, I've worked in gyms, and for some odd reason, when it rains out, less people show up because it's like, hey, if situation isn't ideal, we're just not going to go. But again, you are no longer one of those people. You're no longer part of the majority. You're different because you show up and you make it a priority. So going to the gym in itself, keeping it indoors, is an easy way. And then next is, let's say you want to get a walk in and it's just horrible outside. It's tons of snow, tons of rain, and you're just like, I want to walk, but I don't want to do it on a treadmill. Go to the mall if you have one, or just like some sort of area that is indoors, that is insulated, that you're able to walk around in. So that could be a giant store, like, I don't know, the first thing that comes to mind is like Home Goods, for example. Just do a lap around Home Goods. Or if you're already going to the grocery store and you have time to kill, take a little bit longer by getting something from the opposite end of the store and then get something from the opposite end of the store from that point, and just go back and forth. And that'll crank up the steps, and you're getting the groceries done anyway, and you're doing it all in time that you have to give. So it's not like you're losing anything by doing that. Now, if you're in a rush, then by all means, don't do that. But doing little stuff like that, like taking the stairs, or little movements throughout the day, or little bits of movement throughout the day sprinkled in, can help a ton. Another thing that helps too is if you're going to be at home, doing chores is a really good one. So doing the dishes, doing the laundry, and things that keep you active, that counts. Like, for example, when we're doing the boot camp that starts up on Monday, chores count as a daily activity because it's something active. You are doing something. It's not like you're dropping your laundry off at the dry cleaners saying, here you go, I'll pick it up later. No, you're actually doing the act of getting everything together, bending over, picking stuff up, throwing it in the hamper, putting it in the machine, running the machine, walking down the stairs, or walking across your house. Like, that's a lot of movement that otherwise wouldn't be done. So that will count. And then, like, let's say yard work, that's another really good one. But we're staying indoors. I know we're going to stay on topic, but also yard work is a really good one to do as well. But just renovations in the house, or things that you have on your list that you haven't done in a while, the honey-do list, okay, that stuff can be extremely beneficial to knock out because, one, keeps your partner happy, and then two, you're getting a lot of activity by doing these manual intensive things. So that could be another one as well. And if you want to take it a step further and say, okay, I want to do an actual workout, find a YouTube follow along one. I have a bunch on my channel that are like quick, simple ones that are low impact, that are really effective. And finding a couple of those to go through is awesome. There's plenty of really good yoga ones, Pilates, steps. I know there's like a steps with Susan or something that a couple of my clients love to do. And that's another one too. You can just walk in place. You could just step in place while they're cheering you on and keeping you motivated. That's another really good one. And when it comes to the home workouts, the last thing that we're going to be talking about is incorporating your family, incorporating your kids in those workouts, because a lot of times, especially if they're little, you kind of have to keep an eye on them while you're doing this stuff. You got to keep them close, and you got to make sure that they're not falling off of something, or they're not crying or whatever, and they're part of the equation. So let's talk about how to incorporate family in workouts. One of the things you could do is use your kids as weight. So if they're really little, then you can use them as a goblet, like a kettlebell, like a goblet squat. Hold them right here, or put the, what is it, baby Sven or whatever, that like thing that holds them in front of you. You could use them as weight and just go up and down just like that. Or if they're old enough to balance, like put them on your back while you're doing a plank or something if they're able to hold on to you. Obviously not if they're super young, they're just going to roll right off and that's not going to be good. But I'm talking like toddler level where they could actually hold on to you and they're resilient enough where if they fall off, it's like, boop, oh well, not a big deal, not crying or anything. And then it becomes like a fun exercise, like playground type of thing for them. Another thing you could do is mirror your moves with them. So if you're doing a squat, they're doing a squat, and you do it facing each other, and you can even like give them tips that you're learning, because one of the best ways to learn and have it sink in and really stay in your mind for long term is to teach what you're learning. So if you're listening to one of my videos and I'm like, okay, you want to keep your feet planted on the ground and twist your knees out, do that with your kids and say, hey, Jessica, like knees out a little bit. Remember, Coach Brian said to do this, and they're actively into it, and you're both going through it together, and it's a really cool bonding thing. That could be another one that you do as well. One of the ones that I came up with when I was brainstorming, this sounds like a really fun idea, and I want to know if it works in practice, is tagging them in for rest periods. So let's say you did your squats, tag them, let them do their squats, you rest while they're doing it, and you cheer each other on the entire time. So that way, now we're getting a workout and we're implementing correct rest periods. So now you yourself are going to get better results by using rest periods correctly. And two, you're teaching your kid how to properly train instead of just go through some circuit where you're killing yourself and you have no energy and it's not as good as implementing proper rest periods. So you're teaching a lot of really good things. And then last but not least, the one thing I will say on this topic, a lot of people are very concerned about their kids potentially getting hurt when strength training, but just know the science doesn't line up when it comes to kids getting hurt and the whole idea of growth plates shutting. Okay, that has been debunked over and over and over again. The real thing to keep in mind is that the only real true risk is elevating their weights too quickly. So the stereotypical dude training their kid for peewee football that's loading hundreds of pounds on a bar, yes, that's probably not ideal, and that's probably what would lead to something like that. But let's say you sign your kid up for, like, I remember where I used to work, we would work with kids as young as, like, I want to say 10, 11 years old, and even younger than that. We did like kids classes at one point where they would hold really light weights and they would learn the motor patterns so that when they hit puberty, all of a sudden the learning curve is so much smaller. So now the whole idea of learning a squat or learning a push-up, they don't have to learn it. They've been doing it. But now that puberty started, now they're going to start getting the muscle. Now they're going to start getting even more coordination. And it's basically setting them up for success. It's not going to hinder them as long as you do it intelligently and really grade the exposure. Like we talked about on that previous podcast on Monday with Dr. Brandon Parker, like what graded exposure is starting small and building up. So as long as your kid is able to do it and they're not putting themselves in a position where they're really straining super duper hard and the form looks good, then they're good. And honestly, when it comes to kids, when something's really hard weight wise, they just drop it. Like they don't care. So when it comes to that, obviously play it safe and make sure they don't like drop a weight and hit their foot or something. But I'm saying like if they can't do a squat, they're going to put the weight down. They're not going to push through and be like, I gotta go, I gotta do this. And if your kid is that type of personality, then keep eyes on them and be like, you know what? We're going to calm it down, Johnny. We're not going to go for the 30 pounder. You're not quite there yet. Let's keep it at the 10 pounds and make sure it looks really good. That's actually what they do out in Europe for Olympic weightlifting. When kids are a certain age, they don't let them go past a certain weight. And the real winner of these weightlifting competitions is the person that is the kid that has the best form. So look up exactly how something should look and just know that there are differences in anatomy and things like that. So basic stuff when it comes to what form should look like is, if you can, flat stationary back. Make sure you're not bending and flexing through like a squat or a deadlift, and make sure that the joints are stacked to the best of your ability, where your knees are over your ankles, your I guess your hand is in line with your shoulder, stuff like that. And even then, there's ways to manipulate that, and they're not always 100% true. Just know that your body is really, really resilient. And your kid's not going to just have something pop one day and be like, oh, mommy told me to use this weight and now I'm screwed for life. That just doesn't happen. Okay? So be smart, start slow. Let them enjoy it and really embrace the fact that exercise is a good thing that makes us stronger, that makes us healthier, that gives us more energy. Not, oh, mommy has to do this to burn calories. That's the opposite of what we want. Make it a positive thing, make it a building experience, and that way both of you get so much benefit from it, and you're going to change the tide as far as your family is concerned. So like how they say that it runs in the genes, like you can be that person who no longer has the big boned family, the eaters. Okay, you are the family that prioritizes their health, that exercises because they know how good it is for them, that eats like all the right things, not the right things, but the most nutritious things, and really has that at the forefront of their mind when it comes to making decisions, rather than just letting environment take over and you just go basically fall into the same patterns as everybody else that eats too much and moves too little. So you can be the change if you put your mind to it. And that's where I'll cap it. But before we go on, last but not least, I wanted to mention the boot camp, because we're going to be talking about all of this stuff: getting active, eating the right things, making sure your calories are in check, getting the support. And on top of that, I'm going to be giving away over $1,500 in prizes. The grand prize is going to be $500 straight cash and free coaching. So if you want to compete for that while getting in incredible shape and learning all these concepts to the best of your ability through the daily tips, through the kickoff call, and all the educational materials I'm going to be providing, because you're going to get a crap load of resources as well, go ahead, sign up for the boot camp. The link is in the description or the show notes, wherever you're watching or listening, and it's going to be an awesome, awesome time. And it won't be coming around until September, so don't think, oh, I'll just catch it next month. It's not coming for a while. So get in on it now. Don't wait till it's too late. Registration ends on Sunday, and that is Sunday, January 12th, and we start up the 13th, go through the 26th, 2 full weeks, and it's going to be an absolute blast. So I'll see you in the boot camp, but until then, go kick some ass. I'll see you later.